Sure, it's your final season. Why not throw in a meandering episode where almost nothing of consequence happens? Ah, filler. Tasty, tasty filler. It's a pointless walk in the woods on this week's Mr. Robot. 404, not found. I tell you what's not found, the point! Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Mr. Robot. So yes, of course, spoilers are coming your way. And do always want to remind you about our quick jump index system. In the description below, we'll have this entire review titleized, codified, time-stamped. You can jump to the end of the review first. You can watch the beginning last. You can watch the review in any order you'd like. Okay, so I don't think this is going to be a particularly long review. There's not much to talk about, merely in the sense of nothing really happens. I mean, nothing of consequence. There are actions, there's movements, there are people doing things, but much like our trio wandering through the woods, it's pretty much giant walk in circle. It really is. It's a time filler. It's like a definition time filler. Nothing happens. I mean, in the sense that we are provided with circumstances and storylines and so on, but any of the danger that's represented is all completely false, which I think in some ways is kind of dangerous when a lot of these is dealing with dark army stuff. It's that false sense of security, but kind of like Elliot being killed in the first episode, everything very quickly is moving to a point where you can't go that far. I mean, I knew pretty much early on that our driver was not going to be able to get very far because you can't put Elliot and Tyrell in that type of danger. Not right now. Again, you already did our fake kill of Elliot before. You can't pull us over it again. Dom's whole interaction and whole kind of fear and some dark army concerns, sure, they come to a fore in a kind of dramatic fashion, but it's all a dream. None of that actually happens. Darlene's, all of her concerns in driving with Tobias, our suicidal Santa, who is a great character. Again, there are some fun moments, but all of those concerns, none of the danger that she perceives in him actually ends up being real, so nothing really gets to a point. I mean, sure, we do get some things. Darlene gets off of her chest how much she's actually concerned and cares about Elliot and so on, and yet that it's important to really watch after herself. And yeah, she's going to help him out. And Elliot sure has maybe a little insight in the fact that, yeah, even if he thinks he's going to die, he still has a mission to go and save his sister. We've got the little sibling things going on. And you might even say, what are you talking about, Darren? Tyrell dies at the end. Does he? I mean, we're not really sure, and the point is, we just saw Tyrell at the beginning of the season last episode, so him dying off, it only changes a couple of lines that we've been fed, that he could be the new CEO taking over for Price. That was kind of a nice reveal, like, oh, we're going to get back to Tyrell. Him dead at the end of this episode, we're kind of back at square one. There is no real big change there. Even Tyrell's huge concern that no matter what, the Dark Army is discovered and they're all dead is actually false. There were no cell service. The driver could never have called out, and they already said at the beginning that the logs were never filed, so the Dark Army doesn't know about their conversation, so he could still go to the hospital and yet has just decided to accept this fate he thinks he needs. So, again, despite all of the movement, by end of episode, nothing has really changed in any great grand fashion, which is kind of appropriate then with Tyrell's final scene as he just sits his coat together and wanders off into the woods to find what I can only assume to be Marcellus Wallace's briefcase. And of course, our episode title this week, 404 Not Found, probably the most common web error that we have all encountered. In fact, I just ran into it the other day. It's a page not found. You're asking the server to find something? What you're asking it it's not there. You typed in the address wrong, or a file's been removed, or something. So, again, pretty straightforward. We've all run into it. Apparently a lot of people not found in this episode. Like I said, for me, it's the point. It was a wasted episode. So, despite our trio's pointless wandering through the woods, bickering about whether anybody actually likes each other, or Dom's honestly quite uncomfortable to watch attempt to kind of reach out and connect with another human being, the one kind of bright spot in this episode has to be Tobias the Santa, the very intoxicated Santa who Darlene runs into while trying to steal a car. Honestly, the scene previous to that where you have Darlene on the phone going after Elliot and just laying into him with all of her guilt and frustration and yet concern, since at the very end of it she still erases the message and then goes back to the "hi, it's your sister, just sort of checking in" call, which again was pretty expected. To be honest, I thought the moment the voicemail said, "if you want to save this message or re-record, please press," I'm like, nah, she's never going to save that. But Tobias, like I said, a breath of fresh air. Very hilarious. I did have suspicions, I have to say, immediately from the front of whether or not this was Tobias's car. I did think a little more negatively. I was like, hey, what if he's trying to steal a car or trying to, get a ride and just sees Darlene breaking into one and use sort of a guilt con in order to get the ride and get where he needs to go. So I was a little suspicious. And he was played so well. He was played so sympathetically. I think that was such a great bit because it pulls you into his story each step by step about him being a Santa. I mean, just talking about being drunk and the sort of sadness and then talking about being a hospital, and then the kids, and then they just, but some of them are so small and you just think they're going to die. It's like he pulls you into the world. They do a great job of sucking you into, this is a man who is at the bottom of his life that is trying to do the reach out and happy thing, and yet the happy Santa deep underneath is hurt and wounded. They played it beautifully, just step by step, with the Percocets and the wife and the accident and the cancer kids and being alone. And they really did. They get you. They pull you in beautifully. And it is, I think, just what Darlene needs. Maybe a little concerned seeing somebody else's life who is horrible and bad, something that she can reach out and connect with. Which makes the turnaround scene, I think, so much juicier. And it's why it's our Scene of the Week for this week. And that's what Darlene realizes, that Tobias' life is not quite as bad as she thinks and we all think. Because again, it's cheesy. I have to admit, it's definitely a direct, unabashed play at the emotions of the audience. But Tobias plays it so well. The dimensionality of pulling you in and pulling you in. And then when he turns around and he's just like, first of all, the house with all the decorations, it was almost like a sadder thing. Like he's tried so hard to live up to his life, but everything's going bad. And no. Wife's fine. She just pulled her back. Accident. Oh, the kid's there. Oh, the Percocet is for her. She's kind of okay. Oh, the drinking. Oh, that's not my car. Everything. Every little bit of reveal. Every idea. Every horrible end ends up being... okay, the kid's part. That was true. But all the horrible stuff, everything that you think that he is going to dive in his final goodbye. That's Steinbeck. He's a national treasure. I'm quoting this. This is from this movie. Read a book. It's just, it's an obvious play at the audience. Unabashed, really, but still executed perfectly. Even at the end afterwards, when we have Darlene finally open up to him, and he almost seems to just walk away. She does her whole thing. I'm worried about my brother and concerned. I think he's going to die and I don't want him to, and I've lost everybody else. And he's just, okay. It just seems to wander off. I'm glad he came out. important advice. What else are you going to say? It's important to worry about your family. You got to worry about yourself, too. Very good. Wanders back into his wife, who's coming out to get him and give his big hug. His life's okay. But it was a wonderful scene. It was a great turnaround, and it's the one scene that didn't annoy me. So that's why it's our scene of the week. All right, just a couple of small things. One, Dom. As much as she may be angry at Darlene for pulling her into the whole Dark Army bit, she's definitely using her interrogation tape to rub one out on. So, I guess she still kind of likes Darlene. The one good thing about Dom facing her fears of the Dark Army being everywhere is I think she did finally get a good night's sleep. She looked really good at the end of the episode. So, maybe passing out in front of IRC and skipping Christmas to the Eve dinner at Mom's, maybe it was the best choice she could have made. Oh, and of course, the whole let go bit as she's being drowned down, I think that is probably something she needs to do. Let go of that fear and concern. Accept it. It's the only way to move forward. So, some advice out of a nightmare dream. Tyrell, discerning caring or not caring about life, depending on the clothes that you wear. Actually, there's probably some truth to that. But I still thought that was kind of funny. It's great. You don't care, do you? You have the same thing every day, and you don't care at all. I wear fancy clothes because I do. It is an interesting point. It is true. How much are you concerned about the feedback of others? What is the type of the world that you live in? And of course, it does weave into a nice kind of cathartic moment of Tyrell realizing his place in the world. But still. Okay, I don't really care either. I guess one of the benefits of accepting an impending death might be a clarity of vision, because everyone does seem to go through that knowing that they're going to die or feeling that we're going to die. I mean, Dom, obviously, with the whole you have to let go, knowing that she was going to drown and nothing that she could do, might have allowed her to let go to enough to have finally a good night's sleep. We have Elliot, having that fear understanding of an impending death, realizing how important Darlene is to him, and that if he's going to do anything, if he's going to get away and have one last mission that he's going to do to try and warn his sister to get out, a clarity of what his purpose is. Tyrell has a certain clarity himself once he kind of accepts this and knows what's going to happen and the things that he sort of needs to do, and sees his life in a certain sense. So I guess in many ways there is a benefit to that, and there is sort of a purpose and resolution that each character hits with this episode. It's just a lot of treading water to get there. Oh, and speaking of Tyrell, oh, man, that looked like a liver shot right there. I mean, it's definitely gut shot, which is not a good thing, but liver also really extra bad, kind of. Could still live if he got to the hospital that you could go to, because again, Dark Army's not after you, they don't know. But I guess he feels like he just sort of wander off into the woods, which was sad, because in the beginning Tyrell was very proactive, very take care. All right, man, jump in there, clear the logs, we're gonna get and go. All right, man, just get some matches, pay for gas, we're all set up. I've got it all figured out. By end of episode, he was just like, I'm just heading off into the woods now, following a bleep. Whatever death cry that was. I think the first one might have been the deer that was shot, but it's still repeated, and it's what seemed to, again, lead him up to Marcellus Wallace's briefcase there. So, I don't know. Aliens? His soul? Was he dying? Symbolism? I don't know. Alright, so yeah, that's it. Nothing really else to talk about. Nothing happened at all of consequence. You get to skip this episode and be almost in the exact same place. Except maybe like 200 miles north. That's about it. Next week's episode is supposed to be a very special one, so is that going to be another filler, pointless wander around? I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what they're doing through this season. I mean, I thought it was going to be like an episode a day, and this was only like a handful of hours, so they're really going to stretch out these 8 days. I don't know what they're doing. but will still be exciting to watch. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for watching this review, as always. And if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, throw those down in the section below. What do you guys think about this episode? Am I crazy? Did you enjoy it? Did you also think it was pointless? Let me know your thoughts. Throw them right down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe. It's quick and easy. One button press. You catch these reviews. You catch Walking Dead. We've got Mandalorian. So much stuff. Don't miss any of it if you're a subscriber. Do that by clicking this button right here. And we'll throw up a couple of our latest reviews right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.